What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the jungle. We are brought to you by Blue Wire Podcast Network and, of course, by the Riverfront Network. I am Joe Farsing. That is not the guy that jumped on the field at Great American Ballpark yesterday. Parker, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. Yesterday was exciting. I was at the game. I was literally sitting just one section over from the guy. And I had an interaction with the guy literally, too. Like, we were trying to get the wave started in our section. And it was me and that guy talking, him and his friends. And then he ran on the field. And all his friends didn't know he ran on the field either, which is the crazier part. Like, they literally were like, they saw him and they were like, oh, shit, that's him. Like, because he told them apparently he was just going to get a hot dog and a beer. Because it was 1, 2, 3 night. So.
My question is, he took what happened to his shoes? Like he showed up in court today, still in the Johnny Bench jersey. So obviously he spent the night in the holding cell. Like, did he get his shoes back? Like, did someone, did he have to walk barefoot to the Justice Center, or did someone toss him his kicks or not?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. He also was only 19.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, again, like, charges are like, they're misdemeanor. It's. He'll probably get paid.
He'll get a slap on the wrist and he won't be able to go to Reds games pretty much.
Yeah, it looks like one of his family members was a judge in Hamilton County, so at least, not that, he should get anything, take it easy on him, but he's at least got someone to help, like, so he doesn't get, like, dinged for the rest of his life or something, just some liquid, we'll just say he has some liquid courage, underage liquid courage to get him up. But the photos of him shall we say mid-tasering was impressive. The backflip, I think, was the coolest thing. The cop didn't interrupt it because I don't think he wanted him to land on his bloody neck and break it, but it almost looked like the cop was spotting him. It was funny as hell.
Yeah, I know. The backflip was crazy. I still don't know where he ran from, like where he came in from, because that was not where he was sitting at all. So I'm curious, like, where he came in from.
Yeah, all you see is video of him talking to, I don't know, one of the outfielders for the Guardians, and then running to the middle of the field, doing the flip, and then getting the shit tased out of him. He probably soiled himself too, so that had to be fun sitting in that in a holding cell. But yeah, that's welcome to the highlights of Greg Noble. I think the guy was the guy that jumped on the field during the Bengals game, Bengals Packers game, and stole the ball from Brett Favre. I don't know. You might be too young for that.
I am too young for that. I don't know
about that. I was at that game. That was mid-2000s. Bengals were winning. Packers were driving for a game-tying, game-winning score. I don't remember what it was. Ran out of the field, stole the ball from Brett Favre's hands. Like, the ball was snapped, and then they blew the whistle. And then he ran to the end zone and then just got obliterated by security. But it blunted the momentum of their drive, and Bengals ended up winning the game. So, hey, that we'll take it. I think it was 2005, if I'm not mistaken. That was they played the Packers at Paul Brown, so formerly the stadium formerly known as Paul Brown. So anyway, do us a favor, like, subscribe if you are watching us on YouTube. Rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't even know everywhere where we're available. If you're listening to us, you found us. Rate us. That would be awesome. Again, be awesome if you guys checked out our Patreon, patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Subscribe for as low as $2 a month. Get to join us on Slack channel. We have Zoom Hangouts. It's only a couple bucks, as little as a couple bucks a month. I think there are worse ways to piss away some money, but it's your money. I can't tell you what to do.
I agree.
So, hey, as my little header here in my, I don't know, it says, is it September yet? No, we're stuck somewhere in the middle of June, but mandatory OTAs are in session. Burrow is there throwing. JaMarr Chase is present as expected. The national guys made a big deal out of that. Like, he's under contract. He knows he's not getting signed before next offseason. Like, why is this noteworthy? It's just throwing a bone out to people who just want to shit on the Bengals. I don't know if he's like, it was Ian Rappaport put a comment out there like, oh, surprise or whatever. I'm like, what do you like? Are you just engagement farming? What's the point of this? He's under contract. He knows he's not going to sign an extension. He has 2 more years that he's signed to a contract. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, literally. I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever currently. Yeah, I don't really get that, honestly.
I get him not showing up for voluntary. Again, like, he waiting for Justin Jefferson to sign his extension. Jefferson signed a huge extension, so now he and his team are going to go to Bengals front office and start throwing some numbers about. But again, he's not. I would be surprised. I think everyone would be surprised if anything happens before this year. His numbers aren't going to change for the next couple of years anyway. Even if he signs an extension, his 4th season and his 5th season, that money isn't changing outside of whatever upfront signing bonus he gets. So whatever. It's just, you need to make up news when you're in this time, when, in the early summer, when there's absolutely nothing going on. You got to make some kind of noise.
You got to talk about literally anything.
Yeah. Trent Brown is in attendance. He was pretty much the only other starter that wasn't around in voluntary OTAs. There's video of him, and seeing Amarius Mims, seeing Orlando Brown. Those guys are massive. Did you see any video of them just standing even next to the line? Like the Bengals offensive line is incredibly tall to begin with. The guards are 6'6", Karras is 6'4", but these guys at 6'7", 6'8". I mean, these guys are massive human beings.
Yeah, 100%. Like we got, I don't know the number on this, but we got to have like damn near the biggest offensive line in football. It's got to be up there at least.
Yeah, they put this stuff out before the season starts, when everyone's starting 5 is set, and I guarantee the Bengals are at least going to have the heaviest, or at least going to have the tallest, and probably one of the heaviest. Depends if DeJuan Jones starts for the Browns. We'll get into them here later as we get into the meat of the episode. DeJuan Jones is 6'8", 375. Bengals have no one that beefy, but that's about the only offensive line that might be able to outweigh them if his big old butt is wins a starting job. So pretty much the only other news note of the entire week outside of Bengals working voluntary and now mandatory OTAs, Joe Burrow is not the Madden cover, as we'll say in my best Maury Povich voice. CMC makes sense. I thought it was weird that there was the scuttlebutt about Burrow being the cover athlete. He was injured for a lot of last year, and so his number, like usually you have guys coming off huge seasons, either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, and Christian McCaffrey is probably the best non-quarterback in the league, or at least the best non-quarterback offensive player, right? Either him or Jay Jettas.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think Burrow, probably if he has a very good, MVP caliber season this year, is probably likely next in line to be on the cover of Madden, because he's really the only guy who hasn't been. Besides, CJ Stroud's entering his 2nd year, but like of those big guys, like Allen Mahomes, Bennett, Lamar's Bennett, so Burrow's kind of next up. So. Yeah,
and part of me wonders, like, would he even care? But he's also a guy, he's pretty image conscious. I mean, you see some of the clothing that he wears to press conferences. He kind of cares about I don't want to say reputation, but
he cares about his swag and his
exactly. So I think he would. I think he'd be cool with getting the honor. He'd definitely play that up. So they probably have to put him in some kind of Gucci ass clothes, or like iced out or something like that on there, not just in a uniform. But the man dresses in some shit that I cannot get away with. Like I know I'm a different generation. I'm 17, 18 years older than him, but some of the clothes, like some of the outfits, like I cannot get away with a SpongeBob sweater and a Santa hat going to a press conference, or the Rock look with the black turtleneck and the iced out chain, right? You might be able to pull it off because you're younger. You probably have a better physique than what I got going below the waist here, but or above the waist here. But
you think you could pull off the Cartier shades?
That I could probably do, but I can't afford the Cartier, the buffs. So I have some Ray-Bans, and that's about as deep as my pockets go. So anyway, you want to get into the meat of the episode?
Yes, sir.
We kind of have to.
The Browns. Let's talk about the Browns.
If it's Brown, flush him down. So continuing our series here, just going over kind of offseason overlook of division rivals. This week, Cleveland Browns finished 2nd place in the division. Not a lot of movement on their roster this past year. I mean, they've got a very veteran-laden team. They don't have a ton of they rarely have a ton of cap space of late because of what the commitments are to the guys that they have. Brought in a few guys. Only a couple are going to be more impact than anything else, but Jameis Winston's brought in for, I think he's a little more high ceiling backup quarterback than what they've had.
With Brissett and Flacco, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jameis is still a low end starting quarterback ability. What do you think? I mean, I think he can still start for a couple teams out there.
I still think it's shocking. It's been 3 years since he's been a starter.
Yeah.
Like, I thought somebody would have given him another chance at this point, honestly. Like, dude still has an absolute cannon for an arm.
Yeah.
All those physical abilities there. And I mean, 2021, he had a hell of a season until he tore his ACL. I remember he had the Saints playing really well. I'm looking 14 touchdowns, 3 picks in 2021, 5-2 record when he played. So he was awesome that year. And it sucks for him. He got hurt that time and then never really got another opportunity, really. But I think he's a really good backup. I think he might be the best backup in the league in terms of he's definitely the best backup in the league in terms of talent. Like, there might be somebody with lower floor, like a higher floor than Winston. Like, they'll be more consistent. But if he plays at his best, that's by far the best backup in the league, like in terms of his best.
Yeah, I mean, he's still only 30 years old. And I mean, he went 1-1 9 years ago to the Buccaneers. And it was 5 years ago. He threw for 5,100 yards, 30 touchdowns. Now, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, which that's still that is absolutely insane to me. Like, I know he's a gunslinger and the guy's going to try to force the ball in, and he's got the arm, so he's going to try to fit it into tight windows that other guys can. And that's where a lot of the interceptions comes from. But that still just absolutely blows me away. 30 interceptions. That's crazy. Like,
sorry.
Yeah. Like, his career high before that was 18, which is still pretty high.
Yeah, that's still pretty high, especially in today's day and age where quarterbacks aren't throwing that many picks anymore. Like, that was more common in like the mid 2000s era, like that stuff. Not 30 as much, but like there was 20s, people throwing in the 20s for picks. But like now, I mean, very rarely anybody throws even 1 interception per game nowadays. And he was throwing almost 2 picks per game, which is
exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly. I mean, Eli Manning threw a ton of picks in his career, 244, and he threw 20, 25, and 27 in his 3 highest seasons where he led the league. And like, that was, 15, 20 years ago. So some of these numbers almost, and it wasn't even that like 5 years ago. Like, and that's, I think that's bad luck more than anything else. Cause again, like he was still productive. I mean, he still threw more touchdowns than interceptions and threw for a shitload of yards. So it wasn't a very good Tampa team, but 7-9 in a crappy division, but it's a weird outlier season.
They also had no run game that year too, in his defense a little bit. They had absolutely no run game, and he threw the ball like 50 times a game. So like, you know what I mean? Like he was throwing the ball a ton. So,
are you trying to tell me Ronald Jones II was not a great running back? Peyton Barber, 470 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. That's a fit. No, that's actually pretty shitty. Jameis was 3rd on the team in rushing that year at 250. That's not a good rushing team. 724 led the team.
Yeah, I remember watching that team because I absolutely loved watching Jameis on the Bucs. Like, it was just entertaining as hell.
Fun. Just a fun team to watch.
All their games were like 35-30. They won or lost. It was either 30. It was in the 30s pretty much every game.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're not going to be good, be entertaining, right?
Yeah, I think the most exciting teams to watch usually are the teams that are around 500. Those teams that just score a lot, don't play much defense. It's just shootout after shootout every week.
Yeah, they lost the game 40-34. They won a game 55-40. I mean, a lot of giving up 37 points. Yeah, here we go. 31 points, 32, 40, 31, 37, 40, 34. Like, it's a bad defense. Amazing that team.
It was a bad defense. He did throw a lot of pick sixes, though.
True. But, I mean, very next year they go and win the Super Bowl, and they won it on this, more or less on the strength of their defense, right? I mean, Tom Brady had a good year passing, but I mean, that was the proof that Chiefs had to go out and get a hell of a lot better offensive line because they got just steamrolled in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because they definitely had some offseason signings once Tom was there.
Yeah, they tried to bring pretty much everybody who played with him at New England, Gronkowski, and they tried to bring, a lot of offensive linemen. Other guys they brought in, Jerry Jeudy traded from Denver for 5th and a 6th round pick. What he was traded for tells you a lot about kind of his value. We'll get into him when we get more into the positions, but fine, great, another decent wide receiver, but not a guy that teams are going to be having to scheme around. Linebackers, Devin Bush, formerly of the Steelers and of the Seahawks, or early pick of the Seahawks or of the Steelers in 2019, I think. Jordan Hicks, local kid. I really wish the Bengals would have brought him in at some point. Bengals have a good linebacking core, but I think Jordan Hicks went to Lakota West, one of the Lakotas.
I didn't know he's from Cincinnati.
Yeah, went to one of the Lakotas, and then recruited to Texas. Jordan Hicks he's still a good player. He's older. At some point, age is going to catch up to him, but he's still productive. I think that was a good pickup. Picked up some running back depth with Nyheim Hines. Hopefully no one runs into him on a jet ski like last year. It was, I think last year, like craziest injury. He's on a jet ski and someone crashes into his knee and basically just shredded his knee.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to get from him. He wasn't exactly an impact player to begin with, just another depth guy. Also brought in Dante Foreman, who was solid in crappy divisions with the Panthers and the Falcons. Who knows what he's going to do? So, and then brought in kicker
Last year he was on the Bears, I want to say. Was he on the Bears last year? Yeah. He was on the Bears.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. It shows you how much I keep up. So, yeah, Houston, Tennessee, Carolina, and Chicago. So, yeah, I mean, he's been around a lot.
As a Panther is what I think of him.
And he was only on the Panthers for 1 year. So, I thought he was on – for some reason I was thinking he was on
You're thinking
Atlanta.
Devontae Freeman.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
The former, all-pro Devontae Freeman.
Yeah. Freeman, Foreman, Dante, Devontae. You can understand the confusion.
Oh, 100%.
Anyway, actually, yeah, he had a really good year as a Panther. At 900 yards rushing, 4.5 yards per, and then was kind of crap last year for Chicago. But, I mean, they go through a lot of running backs. They get a lot of guys hurt. Obviously, they got to make sure they're well prepared in case Nick Chubb isn't back to health, but so we should see there. And then they signed kicker Kate York, so they have a kicking competition. Those are always boring and fun and a waste, and who really cares? Not really a lot of guys that they lost that's huge impact or even names. Lost a couple of linebackers in Sione Takitaki and Anthony Walker, and then Joe Flacco's gone. So again, not a lot of. I mean, the Browns usually try to win the offseason championship, right? Several years in a row, they win the offseason championship
100%.
belt.
They've been winning that like crazy recently.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you haven't won your division since 1989, at least you can take solace in winning the offseason, like having great free agency and then shit in the bed when it comes time to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, the crazy part is they haven't won it since 89. Yet they still had broken. They still won a playoff game before we did.
Yeah, that was.
Really it was a year before us.
That was kind of depressing, but oh well. We've been to 3 Super Bowls, and they can point to championships back. Great, back in 1960 or whenever the last.
I was about to say they have NFL championships, right? No Super Bowls.
Right, Super Bowl. We're heading towards Super Bowl 60, and they haven't even played in one of them. So
that's absolutely insane. They're also one of the oldest franchises, correct? Yeah,
absolutely. The Cardinals, and the Lions are 3 franchises that absolutely 100% cannot and should not ever try to dunk on the Bengals. Bengals are not a successful franchise.
No.
I accept that. I've been alive for most of their history. If you're on any one of those 3 teams, you really have nothing to talk about. Cardinals have been to one Super Bowl. Chargers 2, yeah. Yeah,
they've been to a Super Bowl. I think the Chargers.
Yeah, they've been to. Is it just the one?
I think
they got absolutely steamrolled by the 49ers. It was like 55-20 or something like that. That was Steve Young's. It was 94 season, so it would have been 1995, January 95. Steve Young threw for like 800 yards, 10 touchdowns, something stupid. They just absolutely steamrolled, and that was Harbaugh the quarterback at that time for them? No, he was with the Colts at that time. Who was with now I gotta check that out. Was that Stan Humphries? These are things that vex me while we're talking live.
About the Browns.
Yeah, exactly. So ADHD is a son of a bitch, guys.
Their quarterback was Stan Humphries.
Stan Humphries. Okay, that was I think they had Marion Butts. Natron Means. Marion Butts was earlier than that. Eric Bieniemy, Browning. I liked that team. They were a fun team to play with on Tecmo Super Bowl. A couple years before that. It was Junior Seau was on that team.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah, Leslie O'Neal coming off the edge. Yeah, they were a fun team. Anyway, back to the Browns.
Back to the 2024 Browns.
Boy, I'm talking beforehand. Wonder how shows that should take half an hour takes us almost an hour every single week. Yikes.
Well, it's because who wants to talk about the Browns?
I know that's an absolutely very good point. So, position by position breakdown. Quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Are there any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about Deshaun Watson, Parker Fields?
I think he's gonna be healthy this year. I just think
that's
odds.
the answer.
I just think odds are in the favor. It's been enough time. He's gonna have a full season at some point, unless he's just the Ben Simmons of the NFL and he's never gonna play again. But I feel like he has to stay healthy this year, and I feel like he is gonna stay at least moderately healthy. He might miss a start or something, but I don't think he's gonna miss significant time again this year. And I do think he will perform better. I don't think he's gonna be back to top 5 quarterback Deshaun Watson, but I think he's gonna end up, being a little above average this year in the NFL in good grand scheme of things. The guy's still 28, which is the craziest part. He's 28.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not very old. $63 million cap number. He's making $46 million. They've moved it. They've tried to restructure his deal, which sickens me.
Which wasn't a bad contract. In all seriousness, for his play on the field, he deserved that for what he did on the field.
The problem was how much was guaranteed.
Yeah,
and that again, I let the Browns eat as much. Have to swallow as much shit as they had to take you to PR, and also he's been bad. What limited time he's actually been on the field, but it was the fact that they guaranteed that much money, and it just basically I don't want to say set back. It advanced quarterback contracts to another realm. That Bengals obviously were going to do whatever they needed to do to get Burrow, but it just makes the rest like that pie a little bit different or harder to try to sort out. He has over $200 million in a dead cap hit. So he's not going anywhere.
No.
He was one of the worst quarterbacks the last 2 years. Again, he's only played 6 games in 2022, coming back from the suspension, and 6 games last year. Team was 5-1 with him, but he wasn't very good. Quarterback rating of the old school quarterback rating of what? I lost him. Look at the wrong one. 84, which in 2023 is pretty mediocre. You're not going to win getting that kind of quarterback play out of somebody. He was absolutely elite in 2020, his last year before all the shit hit the fan. Top 5, top 3, and PFF had him as their number 3 for the grading system, number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, at the time I would have said only Mahomes and Rodgers were better.
Probably.
Honestly, maybe Brady too. 3 or 4.
Yeah, exactly. And at that stage of his career, he's still a kid. I mean, he's still on his rookie contract. And you thought the Texans were set up, and then all the crap hit the fan. And I want nothing but bad things to happen for him. But we're not going to focus on anything off the field. He has to be. I mean, that quarterback rating has to be 95 or whatever or so for the Browns to be able to succeed. They have a fantastic roster, but it's getting very old, so they need solid / elite level quarterback play.
I think Chubb's turning 29 this year. I want to say
28, I believe.
I'm saying I think he turns 29 in this.
Maybe that. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he turns 29 at the end of this season. So Chubb for a running back's getting older for sure.
And he's and we'll get to that, but he's coming off his second catastrophic knee injury. He had an awful knee injury 9 years ago in college.
Yeah.
And then the one this year was a gross looking injury. Yeah, he turns turns 29 at the end of the year, so right after Christmas.
Yeah. So that's getting older for a running back for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's on the field, he's a monster.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if Deshaun Watson can't sort himself out, the Browns are screwed, right? I mean, this is the definition of quarterback hell. The roster, this is what the Bengals were in from 2011 to 2015. A really good roster, but you need quarterback play above game manager to win in the modern NFL, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what the Browns were successful with. Like, honestly, truthfully, if Joe Flacco could put up those numbers he was putting up towards the end of last year, Deshaun, you can do that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, there's no way.
Well, and that's with Flacco throwing the ball up for grabs. I mean, Flacco threw a shitload of interceptions, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I called that going into the playoffs. Flacco's going to burn the team because he threw too many interceptions, and that's what happened in the playoff game. Yeah. He just throw the ball to the other team, and they got absolutely run out of the building. But Deshaun Watson has never been a guy who's thrown the ball up for grabs. Just distribute the ball, and I think that's where getting Jameis Winston is a smart pickup for a backup quarterback. Yeah, I mean he is a guy who we just talked about how many interceptions that he throws, but he's a guy who can distribute. He's a guy who's got a strong arm, and if he gets on a little bit of a heater, if he's for whatever reason either put in for performance or injury, if he goes on a heater, then that Browns team is I think more dangerous than what we've seen from Deshaun Watson in the 12 games, the parts of 2 seasons he's been in Cleveland.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So Browns still do have Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Tyler Huntley. God, they keep so many quarterbacks because they have to get so many guys injured, but those guys are they're just depth guys, right?
Yeah. Wait, you say Tyler Huntley?
Yeah, Snoop Huntley.
He's on the Browns now?
He's on the Browns.
I had no idea he went to the Browns. Why did he? Who's the Ravens' backup?
We'll find that out next week.
Yeah, I was like,
spoilers.
Yeah, true.
I forget who the Browns.
I didn't even know that though. I didn't know he went to the Browns.
Yeah, it was a weird signing because Snoop Huntley's got he's not a.
That's
bum.
A Pro Bowler.
Yeah. Snoop Huntley as a Pro Bowler devalues the term Pro Bowler, but
still, he's been a good backup, so now he's going to be at minimum a third stringer, maybe a fourth string quarterback, like not on the roster, maybe. So it's kind of shocking. I don't know.
Yeah. So, on to running back again. Nick Chubb. If we're talking about full strength Nick Chubb, there are few better. And I don't think there's any better pure running back in the NFL, right? I mean, CMC's a more dynamic player because he's got the ability to catch the ball on a guy runs routes and catches like a receiver. But in terms of just pure running back, Nick Chubb, as a healthy Nick Chubb, is best in the league, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it was him or Derrick Henry for a while, but Derrick Henry slowed down a bit. So I would say Nick Chubb for sure.
Yeah, but again, Derrick Henry's 29 and Nick Chubb will be 29 by the end of the year. So this is a guy for their sake. And as a fan of the NFL, you want to see Nick Chubb at full health. Like the guy's just,
he kills us. He torches us.
Yeah, exactly. He just smokes the Bengals. He's the best power, contact, balance, speed combo in the NFL. But you wonder how much that's going to be coming off another, a bad knee injury. You hope, as someone who's watching them 15 games out of the season that doesn't care about the outcome, you're hoping that he's healthy because, it sucks the teams are going to lose because, the teams fail or succeed due to guys getting injured. But I think he's going to be good, but not where he was.
Yeah, I think
85%.
I was going to say we'll probably see like a 1,200-yard season on 4.5 yards a carry instead of 1,500 on 5 yards per carry. Is what I would guess if I had to guess. Yeah,
and that's that's still a damn good. That's top 10. That's borderline Pro Bowl type numbers. He averages 5.3 yards over his career, which is fucking crazy. Let's be honest. He was averaging 6.1 last year in the 2 games before he got injured. The guy's a beast. So they do have depth again because you got the guy coming off. Jerome Ford, as a Bearcat fan, I have to like him. They get a lot of Bearcats, and that bothers me because the Bengals seem to avoid Bearcats like the plague. The amount of their roster that comes from either UC or Ohio State has to be higher than any other team in the country or any other NFL team, right?
No, agreed. I feel like a lot of the Browns players come from Ohio State or Cincinnati. Like a lot of the players are from the state of Ohio, 100%.
I mean, UC's been on a heater the past, we'll say decade or so in terms of their history, in terms of guys getting in the NFL. Again, outside of kicker, the Bengals won't pick any of them up, but the Browns, they'll just pick up offensive linemen and James Hudson, Jerome Ford. Like they'll pick guys up easily. But he's kind of a home run or bust. He'll break out some long runs, 75-yard runs. The rest of the time, he's averaging like 2.5, 3 yards. He's not very efficient.
No, he's not. I agree with you there. He's not. And then it's finally Kareem Hunt is not a Brown.
Thank God.
As the backup running back of the Browns, he has been the backup running back for the Browns for so long, it feels like.
And he's also someone that because of off the field stuff, I'm happy to see anytime someone takes a shot at his knee. We don't have to worry about a Bengal doing that and getting shit on. So cool. But yeah, I mean, they picked up Nyheim Hines. They have Dante Foreman. So they've got depth, but none of these guys, again, if Nick Chubb is not at full strength, this is a spot that they probably need to upgrade, in my opinion, just to, again, they kind of tried to fill it more with quantity over quality. Yeah,
they did. They definitely did try and fill quantity over quality for sure. Yeah. I don't know though. I like Jerome Ford. I think he's definitely a good backup. Like their running back room's definitely good. They're gonna have a great running game. For sure.
Most likely.
As long as Deshaun Watson can be, a threat and they can't just stack the box fully against them, then I think they will have a good running game. I think they will be efficient in the run game.
Yeah, and they're a good run blocking team as well. They've got a good concept. Although they did this is a bigger loss than it would be for most teams. Bill Callahan, who was the offensive line coach, who's probably shortlisted one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the league, did leave to go join his son Brian Callahan on Titan staff.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. Their offensive line is kind of in flux a little bit, and you're losing that rock there. That's the guy that, again, like I said, I mean he's a legendary coach. I mean, I wish the Bengals would have tried to press bringing him into Cincinnati to work under his son, but I don't think they wanted that while he was just a coordinator.
Yeah.
So, on to wide receiver. Now, this is a lot. I think it's a better room than what you see in Tennessee. I'm sorry. Wow. Pittsburgh. Amari Cooper is he's a great route runner. One of the best route runners in the NFL. He turns 30 next week. So at some point, we're looking at age-related decline, but he's coming off a career high in yards and yards per reception. He's a legit number one receiver.
Yeah, and I don't think this will be the year really Cooper slows down yet. I think he's got another year to playing at his peak. His game isn't like super athleticism related, to be honest. It's just his route running abilities. Like he's very much like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has best year ever last year at 32. Yeah. I think he's very similar to Cooper. Because route running is their best skill, and I think Cooper will still be very, very good for the next couple of years at least.
Yeah, he knows how to get open. He's a guy that doesn't matter if it's sitting down in zone, finding the soft spot, or beating man-to-man coverage. Like he's going to find a way to get open. He's going to get his catches. He's not going to beat anyone deep. He was never a big-time burner to begin with, and now I don't know how many years he's been in. I mean, he played several years with 10 years. 10 years? Wow, damn.
He was only 20 his rookie year, so that's
okay. I was going to say, I knew it had to be 8 to 10 years. Played a handful of years with Oakland, Vegas, whatever you want to call them. Then on to Dallas. I guess he never did play with Vegas. He was just Oakland the entire time he was there. So I guess he got moved on before they relocated. Again, at some point, it's going to catch up with him. But yeah, I mean, he's never been a burner. It's always been a guy who's been able just to find a way to get open, make catches, and be a productive player. So. Number 2 receiver is probably going to be Jerry Jeudy. Talented, inconsistent. He's got all the ability. He's fast. He's got decent size, but he's never been able to put everything together. new scenery might help, but he's also going back to a situation with a questionable quarterback and where he might miss trying to catch passes from Russ Wilson.
Yeah. One thing good about this year, he literally just turned 25. Still very young as a receiver. Still lots of room to grow. We've seen flashes of it. Almost had 1,000 yards in 2022. He's been a consistent, 800-ish yard receiver on average. And I just think I think that's the player we have. I think he's going to be a very solid number 2 for the Browns, though. I really do. I think he can be a solid number 2. I just don't think he's going to ever live up to that number 1 potential that everybody saw from him.
The problem is he was drafted ahead of CeeDee Lamb. He was drafted ahead of Jay Jettis, Justin Jefferson. He was drafted ahead of Brandon Ayuk. What's that?
T. Higgins.
Yeah, ahead of T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., guys that just got paid. So you're going to be held up against those guys, and he doesn't belong in that category. He's not even number 2 receiver, like a top end number 2 receiver like T. Higgins, borderline number 1. So he helps that he's, I think, better than who he's replacing, but he's not like he's not a guy who's
the Browns out though, because they had no number 2, so he definitely helps the Browns out. So.
Yeah, projected at their number 3 is Elijah Moore. He was a second rounder not that long ago, but he's is enigmatic the right way to put it. I mean, he was drafted the same year, in top of the second round, top of the second round, the year that JaMarr Chase was drafted in the first round, but
he's still a baby. He just turned 24. It feels like Elijah Moore's been in the league for a while.
Yeah, there was all the drama with him leaving the Jets in the midst of Aaron Rodgers taking over the helm there. I don't. What do you want from him? And his best season was last year in Cleveland, 640 yards, but 10.8 yards per reception. That's, I mean, I guess he's a slot receiver. He's smaller-ish, 5'10", $180. I don't know what they're expecting to get out of him. I don't know what. I mean, nobody's scared of Elijah Moore. He's a decent receiver, but
I'd say the Browns just receiving core as a whole is slightly above average, but it's nothing amazing. It's slightly above average because Amari Cooper's a very good receiver, number 1. Yeah. Judy is an above average number 2, I'd say, in the grand scheme of things in the league. And then Elijah Moore is just an okay number 3 receiver. They're like a little above average receiving core, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just the placeholder at this point. I mean, there's not really anyone young that's really going to come in and take a spot. I mean, they've got James Prochet, and he's just a returner at this point. Jalen Darden, Matt Landers, Jalen Camp, Jamari Thresh. Do we know any of these words? I mean, David Bell's a decent. I mean, he came out last year out of Purdue. I guess 2 years ago. This is going into his 3rd year out of Purdue, but he's been more promise than production. So they don't have a quarterback who can throw guys open, and they don't have by and large, don't have a wide receiving crew who's going to make the quarterback look better. So,
yeah, the thing is, like I said, they're just nothing jumps off the page with this receiving core. David Bell is somebody I kind of thought was going to be good coming out of college, honestly. But
he's also not a very good manager. He does get ejected a lot. He beat the shit out of a chair a couple weeks ago, which was fun to see. But I mean, as someone who's trying to pull double duty, be an NFL wide receiver, right, and a gritty 3rd generation player manager for the Reds, I mean, you really can upgrade. So we'll see what happens there.
Boring personality too. Very boring personality.
Really dry.
Yeah, very.
Optimistic. Things are going to get better. Just pipe some sunshine, and players, doggone it, they're just, they're just about to turn the corner.
Also, looks very old for 50.
Yeah, he's not much older than, not much older than me. And
my dad's 56, and my dad looks way younger than him.
Yeah,
David Bell looks old.
I want to see a picture of him before he got hired by the Reds to see how much that has actually aged him. You see guys before and after they go into the White House, all these presidents. Barack Obama had a head full of dark hair, and he comes out and his hair is completely gray. Same thing with Bill Clinton, some of the younger-ish presidents. Maybe being the manager of the Reds is as stressful as running the free world.
Yeah. He's been our manager for a while now, hasn't he? It's been like 6 years, I think.
Longer than he probably deserves.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than who was the old one? Price. What was
Yeah.
his first name?
Yeah. David Price.
David Price, yeah.
But yeah, this is David Bell's 6th year managing the Reds. So also for the fact that he's still a wide receiver at age 50. That's
Very
badass. That is badass. I will give you a lot of credit there. Anyway, on a tight end. They've got one of the better pass catching tight ends in the NFL. I can't believe he's been around this long. David Njoku took some time, and Browns tried to improve like that position over top of him. Harrison Bryant and Austin Hooper. 2017 first rounder, but now has established himself as one of the better pass catching tight ends in the league.
This is like a great story, honestly, with Njoku, because like he was a first round pick, hyped up, whatever, first round pick in 2017. Like you said, 8 years ago now, first round pick, didn't really become a true number one tight end till his 6th season.
Yeah.
like they were rotating tight ends, and they kept, like you said, they kept bringing in tight ends pretty much to replace him. And then he just got better and better as time. It took a while, but now he's an elite tight end.
Yeah, I mean, he's always had all the physical attributes. I mean, he runs really well for a guy his size. You look at him, and he looks like one of the nicest guys in the world. Every picture I've ever seen of him, like, he's always, like, either smiling or has a very just upbeat look on his face. You don't like that as someone on the other team. You want someone just to look like an asshole. Like, I really want to hate this guy. He's like a piece of shit. But no, he looks like he looks like a nice guy. Yeah, I mean, he's terrible blocker. His blocking numbers, run blocking and pass blocking, aren't great. But this is 2024. You don't need to be a good pass blocker to be or a good run blocker to be a tight end. You need to be large. You need to be able to catch balls over the middle and stretch the field and beat linebackers in one-on-one matchups. And he's great at that.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, he's not supposed to block. Like, that's not what he's there for.
Yeah.
Like, obviously help out and stuff, but that's not what he's there for.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot behind him. I mean, Jordan Akins is 32 years old. I'm going to be 32 and a half years old by the time the season starts. Zaire Mitchell-Patton, I have never heard of that guy in my life. He was drafted 2 years ago out of Florida Atlantic. And Giovanni Ricci, who I thought was an actor in the Italian Job, but that's Giovanni, that's what's his name? Giovanni. There's an actor. I'm getting out of. Moving on. Offensive line. Interior of the offensive line is still one of the best in the league. Joel Bitonio, left guard. Ethan Pocic, center. White Teller at right guard. Right. There's no complaints. Like, they're all solid to well above average.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a very good line in general.
Yeah. They do have questions on the outside, though. Jedrick Wills, left tackle, solid, but coming off of injuries in a bad year. Only had a 54 PFF grade, which was 64th out of 81 total offensive tackles. Again, you can kind of give a little bit of a break because he was hurt a little bit. But he's also, I mean, this is his 5th year in the league. I mean, this is a team that prides itself on pick. What's that?
Top 10 pick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was a highly drafted prospect, and he's never been as good at his draft position. Now, it's been masked because they've been so well elsewhere, but for them to really take off, and they're going to need to throw the ball more, you need better play from your left tackle. I mean, there are some, granted, they've got the best edge rusher in the NFL on their side, so they don't have to face him, but you still have Trey Hendrickson, you still have TJ Watt, you still got some really good pass rushers coming against, and he needs to play better. On the other side is Jack Conklin, right tackle tore his ACL, MCL against the Bengals last year in the season opener. He's going to be 30. He's a quality starter if healthy, but again, as we said before, these are older guys coming off of injuries. It's not a given he's going to return to his prime ability.
I agree. I mean, yeah, Conklin obviously has been an elite tackle at some points in his career in the league. But it's just not a guarantee, like you said. Like, odds are probably, yeah, he probably will be that guy again. But There's no guarantee of that whatsoever. And there's no guarantee. He's had injury concerns. I mean, 2 of his last 3 seasons, he's had season-ending injuries. So you want to see him be healthy for a full season here if he's going to get back to that level.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Onto the depth of the team, if he's not able to hold up, we have DeJuan Jones, who was he 4th rounder, I think, the huge tackle out of Ohio State.
6'8", 375.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, the guy's goddamn massive. And as expected, someone with that kind of reach held up really well against pass rush. He was pretty poor against run blocking grade. He was 63rd out of 79 overall in run blocking grade. I guess someone that big isn't exactly getting out to the second level that often. They also have James Hudson the third, who's another former Bearcat. He wasn't very good as he was the swing tackle 2 years ago, swing tackle last year because of injuries. He was so good they brought in Hakeem Adeniji, which we know how great Hakeem Adeniji can do. We'll look at the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Great things.
Yeah. So it's, again, the interior of their offensive line is a strength, but we'll say their margin of error is a lot thinner than what people, they talk about them having like an absolute Super Bowl built roster. They're a little thinner than what people think, especially on the offensive line, where they're thought to be like the best team, which they're not anymore. Like teams have gotten better. So, moving on to the other side of the ball, edge. What do you say about Myles Garrett? Like what really can be said about him?
Yeah, I mean, arguably the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
Absolute monster. Been at that level for a long time. 100% worth the number 1 pick. Lived up to the hype. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. I can't hear you again. Can't hear you.
Okay, and I think we're on. Or are we good here now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yay! Sorry, we're having audio issues that are really dumb. Going into the draft, before 27 draft, it's proof that the draft season is too long. People are trying to like tear down Garrett because of like he had other interests outside of football, which I think that's good. It keeps you a little more grounded. But like, no, the guy was dominant in college, had all the physical traits, like had the production on the field, and you see him 7 years into his NFL career. The guy's a fucking monster. He's gonna they give him the freedom to go where pretty much move up and down the defensive line, find the weak spot, and attack it. I mean, if your weak spot is guard, he's going to attack the guard. If your weak spot is center, he's going to attack the center. Or if you're the Bengals and your weak spot is your offensive line, he's going to go wherever the hell he wants to, and he's going to make you guys look stupid. He's going to do a stupid crossover move standing at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if you saw that on the season opener last year. He's just over the center, just pretending like he's dribbling a basketball, crossing over, just trying to get the line and thinking he's coming this way, that way. Ball snapped, and he just pretty much runs right past him like he's not moving. So it's nothing you can even tear about. I mean, best pass rusher, and he holds up really well against the run. He's got one of the higher grades, run stopping grades as an edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, just absolute monster. Like what you keep saying, like defensive player of the year, one of the best in the league. He kills the Bengals. He hates Mason Rudolph, so appreciate it. Yeah, monster.
Yeah. And then coming off the other side is Zadarius Smith, who is almost as productive as Garrett. Some of that comes from benefiting from what's that?
He's a Kentucky Wildcat right there.
Yeah. A lot of that, he's going to benefit from Myles Garrett's presence, but he was also a damn good pass rusher before he came over to the Browns. I mean, he's legit. So you can't just load up on one side and leave the other side on it. Leave your other tackle on an island because Smith's going to beat him. And, then you're going to have 2 guys sitting in the quarterback's lap. So it's kind of pick your poison and just get the ball out as fast as humanly possible, right?
Yeah. Also, like, he's gotten better with age.
Yeah.
Like, he's gotten better with age.
As have I.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Moving into the interior, you've got Shelby Harris and Dalvin Tomlinson. Again, we've said this before. Older guys. Shelby Harris he'll be 33 years old. Dalvin Tomlinson is 30 years old. But these are guys that are still productive. They can stop the run, and they're both pretty solid. Providing interior pass rush. Again, at some point, their production is going to fall off, but it's not right. It's not now.
I agree, and I think the thing with Smith is like he's 32, but going to be 32, but like his best seasons have all come since he's been 28 years old. So It's like, I mean, he's definitely getting better with age. And his game isn't super reliant on athleticism either. It's a lot more strength than athleticism. Very strong guy.
Yeah, and this is also a team that's versatile. I mean, they'll move guys interior, inside. Smith will move inside on passing downs, and they'll bring someone else. They'll use, and we'll get into them here in a second, but they'll use Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah coming off the edge, rushing from the linebacker spot. So this is the strength of their team. It's gone from the defensive line to the offensive line, and they're just a damn good defense. Every level, like they've got good players. So moving on to the linebacker section, Jordan Hicks, older, again, bump just like everyone else, but still incredibly productive. The one caveat with him, he suffered a serious injury last year, required a hospital trip. He had a deep bruise that caused compartment syndrome. That's kind of the same thing that happened to, if you remember, Jonathan India got hit when the Reds played the Field of Dreams game a couple years ago, and they ended up having to airlifted to a hospital because it caused an infection and caused that very serious infection could be loss of limb. I mean, could even progress to even worse than that. When he came back from that injury, his numbers dropped off precipitously. So the question is, obviously, when you come in at a certain level and you have an injury, it's going to be hard to, especially coming in the back half of the season, it's going to be hard to keep up that level of play. But he's also older, so that has to be taken into consideration because again, he's not a kid, but he's still probably likely to be a pretty solid player, though, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely going to be a pretty solid player. I don't think it's going to affect him that much, and I mean, there's no reason to think he's not going to be a solid player. But obviously, when there's a lot of these players that are getting older, one of them's probably going to fall off a cliff, to be honest. It's just you don't know which one it's going to happen to.
Right. Exactly.
Because a lot of these players are older. Their whole roster is old.
Yeah, exactly. There's some youth, but not a ton. They haven't drafted terribly well the last couple of years. And for that matter, they traded away a lot of draft picks to get Deshaun Watson. So one of the younger-ish guys they have is Devin Bush. Former first round, 10th overall pick in 2019, which I guess was 5 years ago already. Damn. But he'll be 26 shortly, of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just completely washed out. Someone who had all the speed in the world coming from that linebacker spot. They thought he'd be able to be sideline to sideline, making plays, and just never was able to do it. He gets kind of washed out by can't break loose from the blocks and looks lost in pass coverage. He has enough of a pedigree that he still has a job 6 years into the NFL, but this is a spot that they're probably not banking on him to provide a whole ton of production.
Yeah, you froze for a second, so I didn't hear who you were talking about. You're still talking about Hicks, or are you talking about Bush?
Devin Bush, moving on.
Okay, yeah, you froze for like 20 seconds on my end. I don't know if I was froze on your end or what happened, but yeah, so.
You looked a little froze on my end, but I'm having all the issues over here, so who knows?
Yeah, we probably froze on both each other's ends. Yeah. Devin Bush, like, this was a guy that was extremely, hyped up coming out of college and stuff. Extreme speed and athleticism. And I think he's very much a high high risk, high reward opportunity here. Like he could like fall, not be a great player at all anymore, or he also could have a great year this season. Like I think it's very, very much up in the air here on how he's going to play.
It's pretty funny because he was drafted the same year as Devin White, and those were number 1, number 2 linebackers in the draft. Devin White went 5th overall to the Buccaneers that year, and that was, I think, the Steelers were kind of banking on Devin White and jumped to get Devin Bush, wanting to get a linebacker, to get a playmaker. Neither one of them have been very good. Devin White's actually been even worse than Devin Bush. Devin White just got signed by the Eagles going into this season, but it goes to like you need to be more than just fast. You need to be able to shed blocks and be able to not run around lost in coverage. But the other outside linebacker, again, mentioned before, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, very solid player, really good pass rusher. His numbers look great in terms of just beating his man and getting to the quarterback, not always bringing down a number of sacks, but he's also really good in coverage, very athletic, younger guy. Again, one of the younger guys that they have, especially on that team, is only entering his 4th season, was drafted in 2021. So definitely a guy they're probably looking to keep around
that's extremely young on this roster. That's
exactly
young on this roster.
Exactly. Into the secondary, Denzel Ward. I think at this point his name carries more weight than his play. He's still a solid player. Always had great speed. His coverages seem to slip in the past couple years. His grades don't look great, and he's just given up a higher percentage of completions. Mediocre tackling, but always makes huge plays against the Bengals. So it doesn't matter. I mean, he could be beat for 15 out of 15 one game for 300 yards, and Burrow's going to come up and he's going to look like prime Rod Woodson and pick off plays or absolutely shut down.
6 versus the Bengals that I vividly remembered.
Man, they were driving and they just ran it back 90 yards or 95 yards. It might even been like 98.
Yeah, and I agree though. Like his name, like when you think of Denzel Ward, you think of like a top end corner, and like his grades haven't graded out that high the last couple seasons. I also do think there's a good chance he could get back to that level of play, because he's not old and like whatsoever. He's 27, so I don't think it's really an age fall off there. So yeah, I definitely think he could bounce back and play much better than he has the last few seasons.
Yeah. Other 2 cornerbacks, kind of similar story. They're better coverage. I've got Martin Emerson and Greg Newsome the second. I think Greg Newsome's probably going to be the slot guy. Martin Emerson, the other outside guy. Decent in coverage, but poor tackling. So if you can get open, get catches, like these are guys you're going to be able to get a lot of yak on them. They rely a lot on the safeties for help, or linebackers to get out there. They all have really poor numbers on tackling, which is, again, as team as the Bengals, who throw the ball a lot and have someone like JaMarr Chase, who with the ball, after the catch, runs like a running back. It's nice to have those guys coming up against.
Yeah, I mean, great tackling corners, solid corners, and it also seems like Greg Newsome makes plays every time he plays the damn Bengals. Like seriously, I feel like all these guys, the Browns are just our weakness, they're our kryptonite. So like all these guys just give me flashbacks hearing their names.
Yeah, it's where the Bengals have been crappy, which is primarily offensive line, and then struggled last couple years, especially last year, stopping the run. That's where the Browns feast, and that's why these games, like, you can say what you want, people try to put it all on Burrow, but Burrow can't throw the ball when he's got someone in his face 50% of the time. I mean, he's one of the quickest snap to release quarterbacks, but when Myles Garrett's in your, before you even get to your second read and you've got Myles Garrett literally giving you a hug, what do you want?
Yeah.
So, again, this quarterback is a room that I think they're going to want to address next year to get younger. Because again, Denzel Ward is, he's only 27, but he's 27 years old. I mean, Greg Newsome's 24. I mean, he's youngish, but I mean, he's also not no one will put him down as a number one quarterback. So, same thing for Martin Emerson Jr. Again, he'll be 20. He'll be 24 right before the season starts. So he's younger, but again, none of their impact players are guys in their early 20s. They're all late 20s to in their 30s. So,
yeah.
Safeties, Juan Thornhill, Grant Delpit, solid duo, very complimentary. Grant Delpit is excellent in coverage, one of the best coverage safeties in the NFL. Juan Thornhill doesn't miss tackles.
This is why their defense has been so solid these last couple of years. Because if you look at it, like trying to throw the ball against them is just brutal because you got those pass rushers that are absurd, and then all these guys that are great in coverage in the secondary, and it's like you don't like by the time somebody gets open, Myles Garrett's in the backfield or Darius Smith's in the backfield, and that's why this defense has been so damn good. They all very much so complement each other like throughout the entire defense.
It's very well put together. Like you see a lot of teams that have a collection of big names and guys that have a ton of talent, and they're not able to coalesce and be as productive. And I mean, Bengals have had that issue before.
You've got names defense last year. Names
exactly.
But
exactly. Like and talented players, but you have holes in traits, holes in attributes, and that's where you get absolutely exposed. So again, it's a very solid defense, top to bottom. Again, older, but you're only old when you start to, when you start to fail. And these guys are still solid even into these guys even into their 30s. So, out of the specialists, Cade York, Dustin Hopkins battle it out for place kicker. I don't care. Do you care?
No.
Corey Bojorquez is the punter. He's a good punter.
Yawn.
I don't care. Do you care?
No.
I literally put in the notes yawn. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I read. I said yawn.
Full wrap up. I mean, very good roster, but without improved quarterback play, they're going to crap out in the playoffs. There's no way to avoid it. Can Joe Flacco or can Jameis Winston become Joe Flacco and go on a heater? The Deshaun Watson that has existed since 2021, and again, didn't play all of 2021. That guy isn't a guy you can count on. That isn't a guy that's going to not the guy that's going to carry you very, very far in the playoffs. So he has to take two leaps. I mean, he has to go from mediocre to solid to, you don't have to be elite, but a legit quarterback to win in the playoffs. And I don't think he's capable of making that at this point, right? I mean, again, everything that's happened to him is completely his own fault, but that's had to wear on him, right? I mean, missing a year and a half, all of the personal shit that he's had to deal with, again, like 100% his own fault, but that wears on a person. You're more than just your physical body. Like you've got all the shit that's going on in your head. I don't think he's that guy from 2020. He's gone.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I feel like this is the last year of like optimism on if he can return to that play. So this is his last shot, is what I'd say.
And with him goes the team. Because again, this is several years in a row. Like this is a team. This is a team built to win.
If that team had prime Deshaun Watson, this team is maybe a Super Bowl favorite. Like,
there's playmakers. I mean, the wide receivers are probably the weakest spot. Yeah, and they're still solid. Like there's middle of the pack at worst.
Pick somebody up at the trade deadline for sure.
Yeah, and they're a team that will go out
and pick up a better number two.
They're a team that will go out and make make an acquisition mid-season to try to improve. I mean, that's what we've been yelling at the Bengals to do for years. So like they have I think they've got a solid front office, and they finally have a front office that has allowed a team to build. They just extended Stefanski the other day. So, I mean, this is what the Browns sucked at for since they came back in 1999. They were so quick at pulling the trigger and changing coaches, and changing coaches means flipping that roster over, and that guy's going to want to bring in his own players. And even though they haven't been as successful as they've wanted to be, they are letting Stefanski's scheme, letting his story play out, which is smart. That's why they're still a solid and playoff threat, in the last handful of years. And they'll continue to be a playoff threat even with mediocre Deshaun Watson. But again, we kept going into it. This is an aging roster. They have several impact players coming off of injury. Their floor, I think, is lower than what people think. I think their floor is a 6-11 team because of injuries. Again, everyone. If Nick Chubb's coming off of a regular season and he's not and he's not coming off of injuries, we're not talking about that as much. Or Jordan Hicks, or any of the offensive linemen, but these guys are coming off injuries. I think there is if these guys struggle, or if these guys take a little while to get their legs underneath them, AFC North's the best division in the league. Steelers are going to win 9 games. Bengals won 9 games with a healthy Joe Burrow for 5 games. Ravens have one of the best rosters in the football, and 2-time NFL MVP at quarterback. I honestly, they can go 12-5. They can go 6-11 in my book. So I just think there's a huge boom bust.
Yeah.
Because of because of their age and injuries.
And there's kind of been a boom bust for the last 5 years with this team, ever since they built a solid roster. Seriously.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Again, we're hoping for bust because, fuck those guys from the other side of the state. But again, I would definitely trade some of the guys on their roster for guys on our roster. But
yeah.
Nick Chubb with Joe Burrow, that man would feed families, man. Absolutely feed families. Myles Garrett on the other side of Trey Hendrickson.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, I think we'd be okay there. All right. That pretty much nails everything down. Wrap up here. Again, Riverfront Live, July 6th. Where are you going to be?
Smoke Justice.
You're going to be at Smoke Justice. Attaboy. 12 to 2 p.m. Court Street, Covington, Kentucky. Good drinks. Good food. I'm looking forward to some good food. I haven't had some brisket in a while, and supposedly theirs is fantastic. Father's Day is this weekend. I'm supposedly getting a smoker, but it's going to be 90 on Sunday. I'm not going to be out there with me. We'll wait until I'm not sweating my ass off to go out there and throw something out there. So outside of that, Riverfront Red Show every Friday morning in your inbox in YouTube on the podcast feeds. NBA Friday always should be there Friday AM. Should be there Friday AM, right?
Yeah,
exactly. What any changes in thoughts for we thinking short series going to be even shorter?
I think the Mavericks win tonight. I do. I think it's still Celtics in 5 or 6, but I think the Mavs win tonight. I don't think they get swept. Porzingis is out too, so I think the Mavs win tonight.
I didn't know Porzingis was on the Celtics, so when I heard them talking about him, I was thinking oh man, that's bad news for the Mavericks. For how much I actually follow as tight as I follow the NBA. I'm like, oh shit, he's not on the Mavericks. He's on the Celtics. I think it'll be a sweep. I still think they're just. Celtics are clearly the better team, and they're gonna be motivated to finish this out quickly.
Yeah.
So, as always, Late Night Reds every Friday. Wow, man, I cannot read. This is what happens when I've been at the pool for several hours before we record, and I've had a couple frosty beverages. Reading comprehension struggles, kids. Late Night Reds every Sunday, live 9 Eastern. Good buddy Tim Daniel, Ben Brown, always fun. Red Leg Roundtable, Seth Shaner, friend of the show, has been on a couple times. Again, last episode was with MLB Hall of Famer Marty Brenneman. Parker, any final words before we get out of here?
Fuck the Browns.
Evergreen. All the men out there, have a fantastic Father's Day. Outside of that, everyone take care. We'll see you all next week.
See you guys.